The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines advises passengers to brace for more delayed flights this long holiday. Buses bound for the provinces are almost fully booked ahead of the Lenten break. Several banks and malls announced closure dates for the Lenten week. And Israeli scientists print first 3D heart using the human tissue. Good evening. The Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, advises airport passengers to brace for more delayed flights this long holiday as more aircraft are set to fly to ferry passengers. John Nano tells us why.
Several flights in Ninoy Aquino International Airport bound to El Nido, Palawan and Tagbilaran, Bohol were delayed earlier. Passengers have no choice but to wait as their flights were delayed for about 30 minutes.
11:10, delayed daw ang flight dahil ewan ko kung anong dahilan. Baka congested yung airport dito sa loob, sa Manila.
They're waiting for the plane to another plane to get out.
But the flight was supposed to be
11:15.
But what did the airline told you, ma'am?
11:25. Yeah, it's air traffic.
According to the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, airport passengers should expect more delayed flights in the coming days as more aircraft are set to fly to ferry the influx of passengers this long holiday. CAAP explains that since a lot of aircraft are traveling, it's inevitable that one of it might be delayed that will have a domino impact and will affect other flight schedules. Apart from the influx of travelers, the taxiway in the runway of NAIA is also under renovation that affects the movement of the airplanes. CAAP is renovating the taxiway after they noticed several cracks in it that is dangerous for the aircraft.
Isang problema natin yung taxiway nga na ginagawa, which is taxiway Charlie. This is the taxiway of the main runway. Hindi makadaan ang eroplano coming from Terminal 3 going to its departure runway, runway 06, using Charlie.
The agency started to repair the taxiway last March and is expected to be finished in the next 2 months. In line with delayed flights, the Civil Aviation Board reminded the airport passengers on the Air Passenger Bill of Rights. Under the APBR, passengers affected by delayed or canceled flights should be compensated in any form or can refund their tickets in the case that the airline has proven of their negligence. But the CAB explains that this have to go through validation.
Ngayon siguro ang kailangan nating munang i-distinguish ano ba yung dahilan ng delay, kasi nagkaroon tayo ng mga upgrade sa airport, nagkaroon ng mga pansamantalang pagkakadelay yung mga flight natin, at ito'y dahilan doon sa mga upgrading sa airport, At yung mga bagay na yan kino-consider nating beyond the control of the airlines, kasi pagka beyond the control wala naman tayong penalty,
As of 12 noon earlier, around 69 flights were delayed in arriving and departing in NAIA. Despite of the expected delayed flights in the coming days, the airport officials continuously advises the passengers to come in NAIA earlier so as to avoid missing their flights. The Transportation Department Aviation Sector also urged airport passengers to check in online to fast-track the process and to avoid more delays. John Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Passengers bound to various provinces have been flocking bus terminals in Metro Manila ahead of the long holiday. On Tuesday, bus terminals in Pasay City and Manila area announced that all their trips were already fully booked. Here's April Senedosa to tell us why.
Aling Teresa does not want to be late in her bus trip that is bound to Nueva Vizcaya. That's why as early as 8 in the morning, she went to the terminal ahead of the travel, scheduled at 10 in the morning. Along with her friends, Teresa will travel to the said province.
Kaya nga kami pupunta doon para maakanan yung sariwang hangin doon. Hindi kasi kami init Sobrang init Kaya babakasin kami doon.
Bus trips bound to North Provinces at the Florida Terminal and Victory Liner in Sampaloc, Manila were fully booked until Wednesday, April 17. In Pasay, some passengers were struggling to get their tickets. Trips bound to Visayas and Bicol at the DLTB bus terminal were fully booked until Wednesday. Meanwhile, bus trips at Filtranco Terminal were also fully booked until April 22.
Sa amin nagpapa-reservation pa po kami na kung kailan makakasakay yung mama ko. Sobrang haba ng pila. Babakasakali na baka sa isang araw makasakay kasi naghihintay din yung asawa niya ron eh.
Passengers like Jay are patiently waiting for their bus trips amid the hot weather inside the terminal.
Mag-election na po kasi. Saka nakakamiss din yung mga magulang namin doon.
Despite of the situation that trips were already fully booked, chance passengers can be allowed to ride buses without booking or reservation. According to the management of Tranco and DLTB, additional buses will be deployed to address the said passengers. The public is reminded to reserve ticket for their trips as early as possible to avoid problems during travel time. April Senedoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Trips to Bicol and Visayas area at Araneta Bus Station and Cubao are almost fully booked, but that did not stop travelers to take their chance even on extra bus trips. Mai Bermudez tells us why.
These seats served as bed for some who chose to wait. Most remain uncertain if they will be able to travel because provincial bus trips are fully booked. Divina took her chance and went to Araneta Center bus terminal at 6 in the morning. She is going to Masbate.
Alang-alang po sa anak ko. Ay, yung anak ko po nasa ospital. May sakit po siya. Kaya kailangan ko pong umuwi. Kaya hindi nga po dapat ako makakuha ng ticket. Yung nga, nakiusap lang ako na kung pwede, makasakay talaga ako.
Cora and her family are supposed to book their trip going to Bicol past April 10. But she complains the bus line is not accepting reservations during that time.
Kasi nung maaga pa noon, ayaw nila mag-accept. Hindi sila nag-accept ng reserve.
She adds tickets are now more expensive.
Pag ganitong mga tumataas siya. Pero last year 900 pag lang. Pero pag ordinary naman 7 to 8, ganon.
Something that bus companies strongly deny.
Sinusunod namin yung tamang pamasahe lang. Ang tawag doon, nung November 2, na itinaas na pamasahe.
Problem is, regular workday will end on Wednesday, and extra buses are the saving grace for some. This bus line, for example, only has one extra trip with less than 50 seating capacity, leaving passengers with 50-50 chance to travel.
May chance pa bang makakuha ng ticket?
Wala na.
11. Wala na. Bakit?
Punuan na eh.
Punuan na?
Punuan na dito eh. Ito, extra bus na lang to.
Sa ngayon po, meron kaming 4 na extra bus.
Ibig sabihin,
May chance po makasakay yung mga walang ticket. Pero ang oras po ng biyahe niya is 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock ng gabi. Opo. Kasi limit lang yung slot natin na pilahan para sa umaga. Lahat yun may naka-schedule lang.
Bus companies remind the public to allot 1 month and reserve seats before their actual trip. Ordinary buses rarely have online booking, but air-conditioned units, such as those at the Araneta Center bus port, can be plotted online. Aside from calling their hotlines, it's still best to visit their offices to secure a seat. Scenes like this where excessive baggages are not new. Sonny brings home a brand new videoke machine.
Kasi malayo kami, dito lang nakakabili sa Quiapo, kaya yan. Kung may bayad, babayaran ko na lang.
Bus drivers and conductors also undergone breath analyzer or alcohol quick test to ensure they are negative to liquor intake.
Meron ho kaming 11 na breath analyzer kits. Hindi lang ho sa Araneta Center yan, maging sa ilang mga bus terminals ho, sa EDSA at saka ho dun sa ilang areas, Manila and Pasay.
Kailangan all motor vehicle, public utility vehicle drivers ay kailangan ganito, 0.00% dapat sila, including truck drivers, kailangan negative alcohol intake, kasama na rin yung motorcycle riders, dapat negative intake of alcohol.
Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Additional buses will be deployed for passengers affected by the maintenance shutdown of the Metro Rail Transit Line 3. Asher Cadapan Jr. explains why.
As the week-long maintenance activities in Metro Rail Transit or MRT Line 3 continues, its management and concerned government agencies augmented buses serving as alternative transportation to commuters affected by the suspension of MRT's operation. The Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board or LTFRB initially approved special permit for 140 buses for the MRT bus augmentation program on top of about 30 to 40 buses transporting MRT passengers daily. But with about 300,000 passengers commuting via MRT each day and with official long holiday yet to begin, shortage of bus was experienced as the program commenced yesterday.
Kaya tayo nagdagdag ng bus ngayon kasi matraffic so hindi kagad makaikot yung mga bus. So kailangan ng mas maraming bus para maservisyohan itong mga taong ito.
And to resolve the concern, unit of bus under the augmentation program was increased to a total of 300 to serve MRT's passengers. These buses will be operating from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. along the MRT line from North Avenue to Taft Avenue and vice versa. The fares will be based on the MRT fare matrix.
Okay naman para yung mga hindi kasi available yung MRT so mas convenient din sa mga commuters.
Okay naman po siya kasi per station naman po siya nagsastop. So maaga rin naman po ako nakarating sa office. Medyo matagal po pumila compared ngayon kasi ngayon tuloy-tuloy yung bus. Kahapon naghantay pa po ng bus.
Department of Transportation Secretary Arthur Togade encouraged bus operators to help the EDSA bus augmentation program to further help in transporting commuters. The process in acquiring special permit in LTFRB was also made easier. Bus operators only have to go to LTFRB to be enlisted and they will be immediately given stickers for the special permit and fare matrix.
Wala na yung usual na kailangan mag-apply tapos may babayaran. Basta ito, kung sino yung voluntaryo nagbibigay ng bus, sige na, biyahe na yun.
MRT management also clarifies that the bus augmentation program will only be available until tomorrow and will resume on Saturday until Sunday. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
As the country is set for the long holiday vacation this week, a number of establishments have already announced their schedule. Let's find out what establishment and services will be affected in Monoxon's report.
Once a year every April, many establishments close for 2 to 3 days because of the Lenten season celebrated by Catholics. Banks, malls, and different services are affected during this time. Here are the lists of some establishments that will be closed for the long holiday and what are the things we can do so that we will not be affected by the closure. If you need cash for the vacation, it is better to withdraw money today. Although banks said that automated teller machines are open for the long holiday, no one can tell if there will be enough money because many will be withdrawing cash. It is better that all bank transactions be done until Wednesday because almost all of the banks are closed from Thursday until Sunday. All banks are closed on Friday. You can visit the website of your bank to know the limited schedule during Thursday and Sunday. Banco de Oro has also advised their customers that online banking will be down during this time, so money transfer and online transactions are also affected. If you want to send money through a remittance center, you can do it until Thursday. But all of the remittance centers will be closed on Friday but eventually will open on Saturday. These are the following remittance centers: Western Union, Cebuana Luhilier, Palawan Pawn Shop, M. Luhilier, LBC, and other money transfers. If you're planning on a staycation this week, take advantage of going to the mall because many will be closed starting Thursday and Friday. Most of their operations will be back on Saturday. SM City Baguio is open on Friday from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and SM By the Bay from 4 p.m. to 12 midnight. If you plan to work on some requirement for work, you can do it until Wednesday, or better do it next week because government offices will be closed starting Thursday until Sunday. If in case you need medical attention this week, don't worry because private and public hospitals are open. Big drug stores are also open but some small pharmacies will be closed, so it is better to buy the medicines that you need. It is better to do all the things you want to accomplish this week before these establishments close for the long vacation. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue.
As many people are ready to hit the road for the long holiday, here are some tips to keep you safe on your planned vacation. Gladys Tuabi has this report.
Everyone is excited to pack their bags and travel this long holiday season. But are you fully equipped when an emergency happens? Here are some safety travel tips before you start your journey. First, plan ahead. Gather all the emergency contact numbers of the places you will be going. You can search it online if they have a website. These numbers will help you whenever an unwanted incident occurs in your travel. Aside from getting help, you should also be equipped with an emergency road kit. The kit should include a first aid kit with gauze pad, adhesive tape, bandage, scissors, cotton balls, safety pins, thermometer, and other antibacterial agent. Bring along insect repellent, medicine for headache, allergy, diarrhea, and dizziness. It is also important to have whistle, flashlight, matches, power bank, and others.
In case na nagkaroon ng emergency uncertain, doon sa lugar na pinuntahan natin, we are also equipped and prepared.
Make sure to have an emergency plan on your travel, especially if you're with your friends and family. Be vigilant in your surroundings.
In case na nagkaroon ng emergency kung sa pupuntahan natin, saan ba tayo pwede makita-kita, ano yung magiging method of communication natin.
In case of emergency, you may call UNTV News and Rescue at 911 UNTV for immediate response. Gladys Tuabi, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Israeli scientists say they have created the world's first 3D printed heart that they say is a major medical breakthrough to advance possibilities for transplants. Kat Dumaraos tells us why.
Researchers at Tel Aviv University managed to successfully print the first ever 3D heart that uses cells and biological materials from a patient. The medical breakthrough, which was published on Monday in Advanced Science, managed to produce an entire heart complete with cells, blood vessels, ventricles, and chambers, a marked improvement over previous attempts that only printed simple tissues without vessels. The process of creating the heart started with a biopsy of fatty tissue taken from patients. The cellular material from the tissues was used as the ink for the print job that allowed researchers to create complex tissue models, including cardiac patches and eventually an entire heart.
For the first time, we printed materials and cells from the human itself and created such a complex geometry of the heart. All the hearts that were printed until now, as far as we know, are made from more synthetic materials or other materials that don't originate from the patient itself.
At this stage, scientists printed pink and blue 3D rabbit-sized hearts, but Professor Tal Dver of Tel Aviv University, who led the research for the study, said that larger human hearts require the same technology. Currently, the hearts can only contract, but researchers plan on culturing the 3D printed hearts and teaching them how to operate like the real deal. Once that process is complete, they will attempt to transplant them into animal models. Researchers have been working on 3D printed tissues for years with the eventual goal of creating functioning organs for transplant. The scientists involved in the heart project at Tel Aviv University theorized that within 10 years, organ printers could be available at hospitals. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
President Rodrigo Duterte has signed the 2019 national budget. However, the chief executive vetoed parts of the bill, which Malacanang says violates the Philippine Constitution. Grace Casin will tell us why.
Republic Act number 11260, or the 3.757 trillion peso 2019 General Appropriations Act of Fiscal Year 2019 is now a law after President Rodrigo Duterte signed it last night. However, the president vetoed some line items provision of the national budget. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo said the last-minute insertions made by the House of Representatives in the 2019 national budget are vetoed by the chief executive. This amounts to more than 95 billion peso line items under the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH. The official says this violates the Philippine Constitution. The palace also said this is not part of the priority projects of the Duterte administration.
Those are the
so-called insertions, riders. They are not part of the program by the DPWH. And it violates the Constitution. This is violative of the Constitution.
Senator Panfilo Lacson has alleged that the last-minute realignment made by the House of Representatives in the budget is for the lawmakers allegedly favoring House Speaker Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. This action of the President speaks clearly for everyone in relation to the national budget.
The message is always you follow the Constitution. Any deviation from the Constitution will not be approved by the President or will not be tolerated.
Aside from this, there are also some provisions in the budget which will have to undergo conditional implementation. This is to ensure that this is according to law and regulations, such as the allowance and benefits for teachers, creation of new teaching positions, construction of evacuation centers, funding for foreign assisted projects, revolving funds, lump sum appropriations for capital outlays, financial assistance for local government units, foreign service, and others. Grace Casen, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Senators expressed support for President Rodrigo Duterte's decision to veto 95.3 billion pesos in infrastructure projects from the 2019 national budget. But House Appropriations Committee Chairperson Rolando Andaya wants Malacanang to release details of vetoed provisions. Nel Marie Buhok will tell us why.
Senators commended President Rodrigo Duterte for signing the 3.75 trillion peso 2019 proposed national budget yesterday. This is after months of budget impasse in the Congress. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian is relieved after the budget was signed. He believes that the further delay approval may cause adverse effects in the economy. Also, the senator said the veto is proof that the Senate was right that the changes made were unconstitutional. For Senator Grace Po, it is important to guard also how the budget will be spent. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon believes that the President's line item veto is based on legal and constitutional grounds and not because he sided with the Senate. Senator Panfilo Lacson also expressed his gratitude after the apparent pork insertions was included in the said line vetoes. The senator said this act of the president is worthy of admiration and a victory for the Filipino taxpayers. If this will be computed, more than 19 billion pesos was saved from the said president's line item vetoes. But House Appropriations Committee Chairman Rolando Andaya Jr. has different views with the president's line veto. He said it is possible that the veto is one of the conditional kind. The appropriation remains but its release is subject to conditions. The lawmaker urged Malacanang to release the details of the president's veto provisions. He said amid the issue, the Senate are now claiming victory. Congressman Andaya raises question if this means that the Senate pork remains intact and this is the reason of their celebratory mood. The leadership of the Senate and the lower house has long been in the disputes during the passage of the 2019 budget. This is because both chambers have allegations of pork insertions. Also, the Senate claimed that there are realignments made by the House leadership after the budget was ratified. Nel Maribuho, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Manila Water Company Incorporated Chief Operating Officer Giordino V. Carpio has resigned from his post, the utility firm announced on Tuesday. The Ayala-led water distributor said it has accepted Carpio's resignation but did not explain why he is leaving the company. Carpio officially steps down from office at the close of business hours on April 16. Carpio, who served the company for 22 years, was recently visible to the public to explain the water shortage issue that gripped thousands of Manila Water's clients in March. Manila Water said that Abelardo Basilio, the current Group Director for Strategic Asset Management and Data Protection Officer, will replace Carpio as acting COO for Manila Water Operations. The Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or CIDG, has arrested 2 persons for allegedly selling ammunition from the government arsenal. Leah Ilagan will tell us why.
Operatives of Criminal Investigation and Detection Group arrested 2 persons engaged in selling unlicensed guns and ammunition in Dasmariñas, Cavite. CIDG Director Police Major General Amador Corpus identified the suspects as Joseph De Lima and his cohort Rolly Iliw, who believed to be selling guns and ammunition allegedly from government arsenal. The operation resulted in seizures of various high-powered firearms such as 3 caliber 5.56, a 12-gauge shotgun, caliber 9mm pistol, 3 caliber 45 pistols, more than 5,700 rounds inside the bags of government arsenal, 1 kilogram gunpowder, 3 boxes of unknown caliber ammunition heads, and assorted gun parts and accessories.
Nagkakandak na po ng follow-up investigation kung paano at saan nanggaling itong mga ammunitions na ito.
CIDG National Capital Region Chief Police Lieutenant Colonel Tomas Ibay says De Lima is an owner of a firing range in Dasmariñas, Cavite, but had an expired license. He adds the suspect was also selling ammunition to his customers.
Ang mga suspects natin ay mga gun enthusiasts. Nabilan po natin sila ng bala, and at the same time, sinunod na po yung search warrant dito sa mga baril.
The suspects are now under the custody of CIDG NCR and will face charges for violation of Republic Act 10591 or Comprehensive Firearms and Ammunition Regulation Law. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, has noted that online child abuse is the top cybercrime in the Philippines. According to UNICEF country Representative Julia Rees, the massive presence of Filipino children online makes them vulnerable to online sexual abuse and exploitation. UNICEF argued that such crimes are made possible with new technology such as live streaming, which puts more Filipino children at risk. The National Baseline Survey on Violence Against Children shows cyber violence is affecting 1 in 2 Filipino children aged 13 to 17. To help protect Filipino children from online abuse, the Australian Embassy in Manila pledged to provide 298 million pesos over the next 6 years to fund the Safer Kids PH program, which aims at reducing online sexual exploitation in the country. Through the Safer Kids PH project, the Australian government reinforces its commitment to support the Philippine government in its efforts to address cyber abuse and violence, which he considers a complex form of human trafficking. Straight from the Visayas region, the iconic Wish Bus is now in Bicol region for the next stop in its provincial tour. Here's Mirasol Abogadil to tell us why.
Granting small wishes of the listeners. This is one of the goals of Wish 1075, aside from giving music lovers a one-of-a-kind musical experience. This is also what sets them apart from other FM radio stations in the country and even abroad. And one of the local artists in Bicol region had the chance to experience this. On October 2018, the musical band Green Leafy Vegetables, who hails from Albay Province, wrote one of the things they desire the most on the Wish 1075 wishing wall during the station's event in a mall in Metro Manila. Their wish: to perform on the iconic FM booth on wheels. And this was realized last night when the Rolling Music Hub visited Legazpi City as part of its provincial tour. The group was invited to be one of the performers on the Wish Bus.
Masaya kasi alam naman namin na sa Wish talaga maraming banda, maraming artist yung gustong tumugtog, kaya na-experience din namin, kaya masaya.
Aside from the Green Leafy Vegetables band, 13 other local artists had the chance to showcase their talents to more music lovers through the Wish Bus.
On behalf of the other artists, na ma-promote namin yung music namin and to expose our craft and to perform in this crowd sa Legazpi po. very thankful po ako.
Still a bit overwhelmed, and we are very happy and very grateful for Wish for giving us this opportunity again.
Meanwhile, local music lovers in Albay enjoyed the performances and expressed their pride for the talents their fellow Albayanos showed.
Sobrang saya ko po na pumunta sila dito sa Albay kasi po matagal na po akong fan or subscriber ng Wish 107.5 and matagal ko na pong hinihintay na sana po bumisita sila dito.
Well, nakaka-proud kasi being an Albayano, meron na ding mga mas nagiging successful kahit mga dito lang sa local. So, I can see the potential naman that they can always improve and may chance na makarating din sila on TV.
Watch out for the next stop of the iconic Wish bus. Just visit their social media accounts. Mirasol Abogadil, UNTV, News and Rescue.
Four specimens of the Jurassic and Cretaceous superiors are again shaking prices in an exhibition in Paris. Piching Vizcara Garin tells us why.
An approximately 70-million-year-old adult Hypacrosaurus dinosaur and her young son were reconstructed to take center stage at an exhibition focusing on a trip through time and space which opened in Paris on April 13th. The bones were discovered in Montana in the United States by Native American tribes and later purchased by an investor. The skeletons are between 65 and 75% complete, with the missing parts replaced by reconstructions.
The Hypacrosaurus lived in family groups, means that adults were living with infants and juvenile specimens. So scientifically we have been supported by this theory to be able to reconstruct this scene.
Named Naturalia, the exhibition at the Drouot Auction House preludes an auction of the 120 objects on display, which include dinosaur skeletons, fossils, meteorites, minerals, and stuffed animals, and the Hypacrosaurus dinosaurs are expected to fetch between 750,000 and 900,000 euros. Alongside the duck-billed Hypacrosaurus are other dinosaurs, including an approximately 150-million-year-old Allosaurus skull, an Ornitholestes, and an Otnilla dinosaur. The star of the space collection was a piece of a Martian meteorite named Black Beauty, which is the most studied meteorite in the world and composed of rocks between 2 and 4.4 billion years old. The auction is scheduled to take place on April 16th, following the last dinosaur auction at Drouot, where two skeletons sold for around 1.5 million euros each. Pitching Vizcara Garin, UNTV News and Rescue, Paris, France.
And to complete the most significant news for the day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. A massive fire consumed Notre Dame Cathedral on Monday, gutting the roof of the Paris landmark and stunning France and the world. But firefighters managed to save the shell of the stone structure and its two main bell towers from collapse. Flames that began in the early evening burst rapidly through the roof of the 8 centuries-old cathedral and engulfed the spire, which toppled quickly, followed by the entire roof. The fire was declared under control almost 9 hours after it started. French President Emmanuel Macron said France would launch a campaign to rebuild the cathedral. The cause is not yet clear, but officials say it could be linked to extensive renovation works underway. Paris prosecutor's office said it was currently being investigated as an accident. A firefighter was seriously injured while tackling the blaze. Taiwan is not intimidated by China's military drills this week. President Tsai Ing-wen said on Tuesday after the latest Chinese military maneuvers were denounced by a senior U.S. official as coercion and a threat to the stability in the region. China's People's Liberation Army said its warships, bombers, and reconnaissance aircrafts had conducted necessary drills around Taiwan on Monday, although it described them as routine.
I want to tell you that Taiwan is not intimidated. These actions only serve to strengthen our resolve. Our military forces have the capacity, determination, and commitment to defend Taiwan and not allow coercion to dictate our own future.
Chai also said the Trump administration had notified Taipei of its third armed sale to Taiwan, the training of pilots at the Luke Air Force Base in Arizona. Chai was speaking at a forum co-hosted by Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs to mark the 40th anniversary of Taiwan-U.S. ties under the Taiwan Relations Act, following Washington's decision to ditch formal recognition of Taiwan in favor of China in 1979. The event was attended by a delegation led by Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives. Taiwan scrambled jets and ships to monitor the Chinese forces on Monday, its defense ministry said, accusing Beijing. Meanwhile, the Council of the European Union on Monday authorized trade talks with the United States to seek the elimination of tariffs on industrial products. Beverly Saison will tell us why.
European Union ministers on Monday authorized talks to eliminate tariffs on industrial goods, following through on a political accord reached in July between President Donald Trump and European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker. EU Trade Chief Cecilia Malmström said she's determined to seal an agreement by the beginning of September. Negotiations will start amid escalating transatlantic tensions, with the U.S. having accused the EU of not acting in good faith and delaying the start of talks. The EU sought the deal with the U.S. president in part to avoid levies Trump threatened on foreign automobiles and car parts.
It's clearly in their hands. We are ready as soon as they are.
Trump's car tariff warning, which would be based on the same national security grounds used for controversial duties last year on foreign steel and aluminum, will weigh heavily on discussions, with the EU bristling over the idea that it poses a threat to the U.S. In a separate trade matter, the EU is considering hitting U.S. goods ranging from handbags to helicopters with retaliatory tariffs to the tune of 10.2 billion euros or $11.5 billion in a dispute over subsidies to Boeing Company. The plan follows a U.S. threat to seek $11 billion in damages through duties on European goods to counter state aid to Airbus SE.
We are preparing a list for that with products. It will be published on Wednesday for consultation, as is the norm and the rule by the WTO. So we always follow this, of course.
The removal of transatlantic tariffs on industrial goods would expand U.S. exports to the EU by 13% and the bloc shipments to the American market by 10%, the Commission said in January. The average tariff on non-farm products is 4.2% in the EU and 3.1% in the U.S., according to Brussels. In its negotiating mandate, the EU made clear that agriculture would not be included in the discussions, with Malmström saying this was a red line for Europe. This could presage a fight with the U.S., which has insisted that farm goods be a part of the talks. The EU also underscored that it wouldn't agree to any deal as long as the current metal tariffs are in place, and that it would be able to suspend negotiations unilaterally if the U.S. were to impose further trade restrictions against European products. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
Environmental activists sprayed graffiti and glued themselves to the Shell building in London on Monday in a bid to force the government to do more to tackle climate change. Activists said they smashed the glass of a revolving door and cost more than £6,000 or $7,900 worth of damage. At least 3 people were arrested by police for criminal damage. The action was part of a day of protests in central London, where thousands of demonstrators paralyzed parts of the British capital by blocking Waterloo Bridge, Marble Arch, and Oxford Circus. The protests are being led by the British climate group Extinction Rebellion and will involve demonstrations in 33 countries around the world over the coming days. The group is demanding the government declare a climate and ecological emergency, reduce greenhouse gas emissions to net zero by 2025, and create a citizens' assembly of members of the public to lead on decisions to address climate change. In other news, Greece's president has called for the United Kingdom to return a set of classical sculptures from the murky prison of the British Museum. Meanwhile, Japan has begun removing spent nuclear fuel rods from a second building at the wrecked Fukushima plant 8 years after the disaster. Here's Kath Dumaraos to tell us why.
In Japan, The operator of Japan's Fukushima nuclear plant has begun removing nuclear fuel from a building housing one of the reactors that melted down after the 2011 earthquake and tsunami. Remotely controlled equipment is lifting fuel rods from a storage pool near reactor number 3. The delicate work at the contaminated site is expected to take 2 years. The next phase of the huge cleanup at reactor 3 will be to remove molten nuclear fuel that remains deep inside. A spokeswoman for the Tokyo Electric Power Company said the operation to remove the fuel had been delayed by earthquake debris inside the building as well as other technical issues. Reactor buildings at the Fukushima Daiichi power plant were damaged by hydrogen explosions caused by the earthquake and tsunami. 3 reactors melted down. In China, Chinese customs seized 7.48 tons of smuggled ivory tusks and arrested 20 suspects during an operation on March 30 this year. The ivory tusks were hidden in 62 wooden boxes in a deserted warehouse in East China's Anhui province. It is the largest confiscation of smuggled elephant tusks by Chinese customs in recent years, the General Administration of Customs said on Monday. In Greece's president called on Monday for Britain to free the Parthenon marbles from the murky prison of its National Museum, upping the rhetoric in a near 200-year-old campaign for the sculpture's return. President Prokopis Pavlopoulos spoke at Athens' own glass-fronted Acropolis Museum, which campaigners hope will one day house the classical reliefs and figures taken by a British diplomat in the early 19th century. Greece has repeatedly requested their return since its independence in 1832 and stepped up its campaign in 2009 when it opened its new museum at the foot of the Acropolis Hill. The British Museum has refused to return the sculptures, saying they were acquired by Elgin under a legal contract with the Ottoman Empire. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday said he would award Tiger Woods the Presidential Medal of Freedom after the golfer won the Masters for the 5th time on Sunday. Trump, an avid golfer, and Woods have played together in the past, including in February when the pair joined golf great Jack Nicklaus for a round at Trump National Golf Club in Jupiter, Florida. The medal is the highest civilian honor awarded by the government of the United States and was established in 1963 by President John F. Kennedy. A 10-year-old British skateboarder took a big step towards her ambition of competing at the 2020 Tokyo Olympics when she won at the UK Championships on Sunday. US-based Sky Brown claimed the gold medal at her first national competition with victory in the Women's Park at the UK Skateboard Championships in Salford. She aims to be Britain's youngest ever Summer Olympian when her sport appears at the Olympics for the very first time. A herd of cows in England are now being used to test 5G's rural connectivity. Judith Anafuente will tell us why.
They may look like regular cows, but a herd of Frisian dairy cattle at a farm in England are internet pioneers, and they're enjoying the benefits of 5G connectivity before you. As part of the 5G Rural First project, technology firm Cisco has set up 5G testbeds to trial wireless and mobile connectivity on rural locations in Orkney Islands, Shropshire, and Somerset. At the government-funded Agricultural Engineering Precision Innovation Center in Somerset, around 50 of the 180-strong herd is fitted with 5G smart collars and health monitoring ear tags.
So these cows have got quite a bit of wearable technology on them. They have a collar with a transponder underneath their chin, which is the one that controls the gates and so on that give them access to the robot. So when they go into the robot knows exactly which cow it is.
Among the 5G connected gadgets worn by the cows is a collar that controls a robotic milking system. When the cow feels ready to be milked, it will approach the machine gates that will automatically open. The device recognizes the individual to precisely latch onto its teats for milking, while the cow happily munches on a food reward. A smart ear tag provides location data for each cow while also tracking health.
5G now, it provides this umbrella of connectivity that it will allow us to connect things that we never connect before.
The working dairy, set up by Agri-EPI with the support of the UK's Innovation Agency, already uses a wide range of technology, including automated cow-sized brushes that rotate when the cow rubs up against them, sensor-operated curtains that open or close depending on the weather, and a smart feeding system that automatically delivers food around the barn via ceiling-mounted rails. The 5G Next Generation Wireless Network can provide data speeds at least 20 times faster than 4G and will underpin advances of the next era. From self-driving cars and augmented reality to smart cities and artificial intelligence. With the advent of spring, the cows in Somerset have now been turned out to roam free on the pasture, further testing 5G's ubiquitous connectivity. Judith Anna Fuente, UNTV News and Rescue.
Possibly the last remaining female Yangtze giant soft-shell turtle was artificially inseminated before dying. Stephanie C. will tell us why.
The only known female Yangtze giant soft-shell turtle died Saturday afternoon in a zoo in Suzhou City, East China's Jiangsu province. Its death leaves only 3 Yangtze giant soft-shell turtles known to exist in the world. One of them is a 100-year-old male in the Suzhou Zoo, and the other 2 of unknown gender are in Vietnam. The Suzhou Zoo said Saturday that the 90-year-old turtle died following an artificial insemination procedure.
It is said that a female Yangtze giant soft-shell turtle did not recuperate and died after receiving 24-hour treatment. It is a disastrous loss to a species facing extinction.
The zoo said the turtle could not reproduce after 2008 due to weak sperm quality of the male, so the zoo tried artificial insemination from 2015 to help the rare turtle have offspring.
Before officially collecting sperm and inseminating the female, the expert team checked physical, chemical indicators and did ultrasonic physical checks on the turtles. Results showed they were in good condition and the latest attempts, like the previous 4, went smoothly without complications. After administering anesthetics, it recovered and moved around 6 p.m. that day. But later we found it motionless and attempted resuscitations. It took less than half an hour to do a diagnosis and start resuscitations.
The zoo will work to find out the exact cause of the female turtle's death.
The expert team collected ovarian tissue and kept it in liquid nitrogen for future research. The subject team plans to organize an autopsy, team of domestic and foreign experts to investigate its death.
Stephanie C., UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news this April 16, 2019. On behalf of Ina Villamor Camara and Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo. And before we close, we will recap with today's significant sound bites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
Isang problema natin yung taxiway nga na ginagawa, which is Taxiway Charlie. This is the taxiway of the main runway. Hindi makadaan ng aeroplano coming from Terminal 3 going to its departure runway, runway 06, using Charlie.
Sa amin nagpapa-reservation pa po kami na kung sakaling kung kailan makakasakay yung mama ko. Sobrang haba ng pila. Papakasakali na baka sa isang araw makasakay kasi naghihintay din yung asawa niya ron eh.
Meron ho kaming 11 na breath analyzer kits. Hindi lang ho sa Araneta Center yan, maging sa ilang mga bus terminals ho, sa EDSA at saka ho dun sa ilang areas, Buendia, Pasay.
Kaya tayo nagdagdag ng bus ngayon kasi nagpa-traffic eh. So hindi kagad makaikot yung mga bus. So kailangan mo ng mas maraming bus para maservisyohan itong mga taong ito.
The message is always you follow the Constitution. Any deviation from the Constitution will not be approved by the President or will not be tolerated.
Masaya kasi alam naman namin na sa Wish talaga maraming banda, maraming artist yung gustong tumugtog kaya na-experience din namin kaya masaya.